Welcome to my story channel. I'm Shamrock. The story has begun. Welcome to subscribe. My wife and I are about to celebrate our 40th wedding anniversary, which is considered a ruby wedding. Recently, I found in her drawer a men's coral bracelet she had ordered, with the words Happy 35th Wedding Anniversary embroidered on the jewelry box. What a silly person, we have clearly been married for 40 years. I went to the jewelry store to order a ruby jewelry set for her and mentioned the bracelet she had ordered. The shop assistant laughed and said, "This is a gift from your wife for your 35th wedding anniversary. She knows you like bracelets best." I was a little stunned to hear this, because I have never liked bracelets. Then I realized that 35 years ago, she already had another family. My mood was like falling into an ice cellar. I asked blankly. She said it was for our 35th wedding anniversary, and that I like bracelets best. The shop assistant smiled and said, "That's right. Because your wife is so elegant and romantic, we were very impressed. Each coral bead on this bracelet has your names on it, Liam Lee and Clara Lynn, so we engraved them and deliberately put your names first. Mr. Lee is so happy, married for 35 years and still in love with his wife." I couldn't help but say, "My name is Ethan Gray, not Liam." Liam was her college classmate, and I saw her in Clara's graduation photo album. It almost took my breath away. I couldn't believe that my wife of 40 years had betrayed me and had been with another man for 35 years. I'm an architect and everyone calls me Mr. Gray. When I was young, it was especially hard to work in this industry. I often had to go to construction sites to investigate, and sometimes I had to travel for months. Everyone says I have a virtuous and beautiful wife. She is very considerate, always taking care of the housework at home, and waiting for me with hot soup and rice when I get back. I can't believe she would betray me. When I got home, I quietly opened her dresser drawer while she was dancing at the university for seniors, and checked her jewelry box. I took out the bracelet and saw that each red coral bead had an initial engraved on it. There was also a small card below that said 35th anniversary. The bracelet slipped from my hands. It turned out that what the jeweler had said was true, and I had been foolishly persistent for decades. June 28th, their wedding anniversary was approaching. In the evening, just before dinner, Clara came home with a happy smile on her face, as if she had had a good time. During dinner, I asked her gently, "Clara, we're going to celebrate our 40th anniversary soon. How would you like to celebrate?" She glanced at me briefly and complained, "What's the point of celebrating when you're old? Just do what you normally do. You should rest more when you have time. You're not as young as you used to be, so don't worry so much." I looked at her dyed hair, which didn't have a single gray hair, and the pearl earrings I gave her for our 30th wedding anniversary, which were still hanging in her ears. She always took good care of herself and dressed well, so she looked 10 years younger than her actual age. I earned a good income, and after the hard times at the beginning of our marriage, I tried to give her a better life as much as possible. Why would she lie to me? I put down my chopsticks and said I wanted to sign up for a luxury tour and go traveling together. She looked at me, and the tenderness in her eyes made me feel that she was being genuine. She asked me gently where we were going. I continued, saying that you could go anywhere you like, and I was planning to set off on June 28th for half a month. I particularly emphasized the date of June 28th. Sure enough, after I had finished speaking, Clara's face changed. She put down her chopsticks and asked me, "You decided the time without even consulting me? Our senior art troupe has an event coming up, and this period of time is not very suitable. Let's go in July." I kept looking at her. "I had asked you before if your art troupe had any recent activities, just to surprise you." Clara put down her chopsticks and asked me if I was questioning her. Am I not allowed to have my own things? Anyway, I have something going on in June, and I won't go on a trip with you. If you want to go, just go by yourself. After she said that, she went into her own room. She mentioned that she was getting old, couldn't sleep well, and I snored, so we slept separately many years ago. She went back to her room angrily, saying that she would go on a Cold War, and never came out again. In the evening, I got up to drink water and saw that there was still light in her room. I walked over to the door and tried to push it open to tell her to go to bed early, but I heard voices inside. She said, "Don't worry, how could I forget the anniversary? Of course I will spend it with you and the kids. Ethan, I will arrange it so that he won't find out. He hasn't found out for decades, so there is no problem this time. He is not very smart, a science and engineering guy, so don't worry. Tell my son not to worry. Does he like the watch I bought him last time? I've already ordered the car he likes. I can pick it up next week. My head is in a complete mess." Son? They have a son? How is that possible? After decades of marriage, Clara was the lead in the art troupe. After getting married, she said she couldn't give up her career, so in order to keep in shape she chose not to have children, and I agreed. Now I feel lonely, and this is also the reason. But in her phone call, she mentioned a son. I took a few steps back, went back to my room, sat on the bed and thought for a long time. For 35 years, how come I never noticed, and how could she give someone else a child when I was obviously always by her side? Oh, I thought of it. In 1995, I was sent abroad for a year and a half. Could it have happened then? But it's impossible. The neighbors don't know about it, do they? I had a lot of questions in my mind, so the next day I went to the art troupe where Clara had worked before, pretending to look for her old photos. I said I wanted to surprise Clara and collect stills from her performances each year to make an album as a keepsake. Because the art troupe took photos of each year's performances and kept records of each year, I flipped to 1994 and then kept flipping through the photos, and sure enough, there were no photos from 1995. I pretended to ask casually, "Hey, why doesn't Clara have any stills from 1995? The staff looked it up, recalled it, and finally remembered to say that Clara was not feeling well in 1995, went to Tianjin for surgery, and applied for leave without pay. She didn't return until a year later when she recovered. At that time, you were still abroad, and fortunately, she had a classmate in Tianjin who came to pick her up. Later, it seems that she lived in Tianjin for a year, and this same classmate brought her back. You have to thank her classmate." Pretending to be ignorant, I asked, "Who is her classmate?" I thought for a moment, and then I asked, "Isn't the classmate in Tianjin called Liam?" The staff member thought for a moment and said, "Yes, that's the name. Because he used to call Clara a lot to chat, they were very close." Sure enough, in 1996, her stage photo appeared, except that her face was rounder, obviously just after giving birth. My heart and hands were shaking, and all my doubts slowly began to unravel. I began to reflect on whether this truth was really what I wanted to know. Every year, their troupe would go to Jinzhou a few times to compete and perform, so I felt it would be easier for them to meet there. I went to the post office to check the records of our landline phone and found that a Jinzhou landline number often called our home on Monday mornings. The records also showed that there were calls from our home to this number every day. Although I had already retired, I was still a consultant at the Design Institute. Every Monday was my day to go to the Design Institute, and everyone knew I wouldn't be home. There were a few times when I was sick at home and I received a few silent phone calls. When I got home, I slowly went through the old photos. Clara came back and saw me looking at the photos. She smiled and asked what was so interesting. Her smile made it seem like the argument from the night before no longer existed. Then she went into the kitchen to cook dinner, leaving her phone on the coffee table. The phone suddenly lit up, and I saw a text message, "Hello, the menu for your 6th wedding anniversary banquet at the Jincheng Hotel has been sent to your email address." I felt a sudden tightening in my heart, as if I had fallen into an ice cellar. I was about to take a closer look when Clara came out of the kitchen, hastily picked up her phone, and found that there were still unread messages. She let out a sigh of relief, saying that it was a confirmation of the class time for the dancing class at the University for the Elderly, and she was afraid of missing it. After that, she put her phone in her pocket and returned to the kitchen with peace of mind. It seems that they not only want to celebrate their wedding anniversary together, but also have a big banquet. I wanted to find out when they got married, but instead, it made me, the legal husband, feel ashamed. I started to pay attention to Clara's daily routine. She woke up every morning on time, made breakfast for me, then went to the university for the elderly to dance. When she came home in the evening, she bought groceries on the way and cooked my favorite meals. After dinner, she would accompany me on walks, drink tea and chat, care about my health, remind me to take my blood pressure medicine on time and measure my blood pressure. She behaved like the perfect wife, and it was completely unimaginable that she had another family. This morning, she told me that she was going to Jinzhou to attend a class reunion and might stay for a few days. I smiled and said, "You can bring your family to reunions, I'll go with you." Clara's expression changed, and she asked me why I had time this time when I had no time before because of work. She said she couldn't take leave from the Design Institute, and I shouldn't let this trivial matter affect work. I felt a little uncomfortable, so I could only force a smile and tell her to take care of herself. I'll pick her up at the high-speed railway station when she returns. I watched her pack her favorite clothes and jewelry into the suitcase, and even the clothes she wore on the day of departure were selected repeatedly. I saw her off at the high-speed railway station and watched her go through security and get on the train. Then I bought a ticket for the next high-speed train to Tianjin. Today is their wedding anniversary, and she can't be without her husband. On the 28th, the ballroom of the Tianjin Grand Hotel was bustling with activity, with dozens of tables set up. The sign at the entrance read, "Congratulations to Liam and Clara on their 35th wedding anniversary." Next to it was a display of Clara and her husband's wedding photos, the popular elderly wedding photos of the moment. Clara still looks beautiful in the photo, and the man beside her is a middle-aged man of about 60 years old, with slightly gray hair and tender emotions in his eyes. Guests gradually took their seats. I handed the red envelope to the staff member welcoming the guests, and found the last table to sit down. Clara and Liam embraced each other tightly on the stage, and a young man in the audience, who looked a bit like her, shouted, "Mom and Dad, give each other a kiss." The guests then applauded enthusiastically. Clara blushed and tilted her head to receive Liam's kiss. The MC exclaimed from the stage, "This happy elderly couple has truly made us believe in love again. What a rare thing, a 35th wedding anniversary. Now please exchange gifts." Clara took the jewelry box her son handed her, opened it and took out a string of red coral bracelets, which she put on Liam's hand. She gave him a little kiss and said with a smile, "Honey, I love you. I hope we can celebrate the ruby, sapphire and golden wedding anniversaries in the future." Liam hugged her tightly and said, "Yes, definitely. We will always be together." The MC asked, "Now, does any guest wish to say something to this happy couple?" I raised my hand, stood up, took the microphone that was handed to me, and said loudly, "I would like to ask the happy Miss Clara, you and Liam are celebrating your 35th wedding anniversary, but what about you and your husband who have been married for 40 years? The audience was in an uproar. "What do you mean 40 years of marriage? Who is this person? Isn't Liam her husband?" I walked up to the stage through the crowd, slowly moving from darkness to light, keeping my eyes fixed on Clara, watching her expression of disbelief and her face turn pale. Her son quickly walked up to the stage, blocking me, and said, "Today is my parents' wedding anniversary, what do you want? If you want to make trouble, please leave, otherwise I won't be polite." I reached out and pushed him away, staring coldly at him and asking, "Your parents' wedding anniversary? Have you ever asked them if they have a marriage certificate?" The murmurs around us grew louder. Clara, pale as a sheet, stepped forward and looked at me, her eyes pleading, whispering, "Why are you here? Let's go home and talk about it, can we not do this here?" I shouted back, "Why go home to talk about it? Whose home? Is it the home you've been living in for the past 40 years in Los Angeles, or the home you've been living in for the past 35 years in Tianjin? Clara, I never thought you would be two-faced and hide it from me for 35 years. Liam rushed over, supported Clara, who was about to fall, and said, "Enough, Ethan, as a man, is this how you treat a woman? Even if you got a marriage certificate, what does that prove? You left her alone at home while you were busy with your career. Do you know how lonely and sad she was? You didn't even want to give her a child. What kind of man are you? I was furious and stared at Clara. Don't I want to give her a child? Clara, you were the one who said you wanted to dance and couldn't lose your career, so you asked me to agree not to have children after marriage. I have suffered so much pressure for this. I took the blame myself to avoid gossip. Little did I know that you would cheat on me with someone else while I was abroad for more than a year and have a bastard child behind my back. Now you accuse me of not wanting to give you a child. Can a lie become the truth just by repeating it enough times? You did such a thing and still want to blame it on someone else? Is this what you did? I took out the marriage certificate I had prepared long ago and held it up for all the guests to see. I am Clara's husband and we have been married for 40 years. I only found out the other day that my wife had started a new family with Liam 35 years ago and had a child with him. She hid this from me for 35 years. The guests were talking about it. It was really dramatic, cheating for 35 years. Having 2 families in 2 cities, I didn't think she would be so bold. It's really shocking. They were together in college, then broke up. We thought they might get back together, but it turned out to be cheating. How can she still feel comfortable throwing a banquet for everyone? Clara and Liam's son snatched my marriage certificate, threw it on the ground, stomped on it, questioned what kind of marriage certificate I was holding, and dared to yell. He said to me, "Who do you think you are? Get out." He turned to look at his parents and said, "Dad, Mom, get the marriage certificate. I want to call the police and have him arrested. Now someone is pretending to be someone else's husband. This is too much." Clara's face was full of tears as she looked at me and said, "You knew about this and deliberately waited until today to humiliate me. This is really too much. I've been with you for 40 years and it feels really disgusting. Every day makes me feel uncomfortable. Now that you know, we can get a divorce. I've kept it a secret before so as not to hurt you, but now there's no need. Let's get a divorce." Divorce? Just saying divorce lightly to end this, to lightly brush over what I have hidden for decades, is just not possible. Ever since I learned about Liam and their son, I had someone look into their background. Liam had worked as a finance executive for a company, but was fired for misconduct. The industry relies on credibility, and once the news spread, Liam was unable to find any decent work afterwards, and could only occasionally do some temporary work, which was not enough to support the family. Clara basically supports the whole family. At first, Clara's salary was very low, and by the time she retired, it was only 5,000 to 6,000 yuan. It is not clear where the money came from, but it was not even enough for Clara to buy clothes and cosmetics. Their son Noah Lee went to college and got a job in the government with Clara's help. Their social connections are mainly in Tianjin, and today's guests are mostly acquaintances from Noah's side. In the eyes of relatives and friends, the Lee family is a happy family. Clara is not only beautiful, but also earns a lot of money, buying them a luxury home and a fancy car, and also arranging a good job for her son. The banquet was a bit chaotic. What was supposed to be a happy and warm gathering turned into a farce. I sat in Clara and Liam's home, with them in front of me. This place is in a high-end neighborhood in the city of Jean. It can be seen that the building is no more than 3 years old, and it is obviously their new house. I couldn't help but smile. "Clara, you have really enjoyed spending my money and really spent a lot on this family." Thinking about this, I felt a little sad. But she is very stingy with me. Even my pajamas are old and pilling, and she still says that a big man who is so calculating will be more comfortable wearing old clothes. I have 2 winter jackets that I have been wearing in rotation for 10 years, and I still haven't replaced them. The most expensive one was a gift from my student on my birthday. He said that a cashmere coat is lighter and more suitable for my age. Looking at Liam in front of me, he is exquisitely dressed, obviously all designer brands. I thought about the money I worked hard to earn, and in the end it was spent on this man by Clara, which made me feel very uncomfortable. When did you 2 get together? I kept a close eye on the 2 of them. Clara turned her face away, and Liam gently comforted her. Clara recalled, "I met Liam when I was injured while dancing in a performance in Tianjin the year I went abroad. He took care of me and looked after me, made me feel secure, and then we got together again. Later, I became pregnant with his child. Liam loves children very much, so I told the troop that I was sick and needed to recuperate in Tianjin, and I gave birth to the child. I thought, since you and I don't have any children, Noah can take care of you in your old age. I was so angry that I felt dizzy, and I couldn't believe what she was thinking. Noah said beside me, "Don't say anything, what bastard child, my mother has always loved my father, not you." Clara held him down and looked at me and said, "I wanted to tell you, but you were always on business trips, so I didn't think it mattered whether I told you or not. In fact, Liam and I are together, we are in true love, and he doesn't care about status. It's not a bad thing to continue like this. If you don't know, it's the same as before. Why did you have to make things so difficult? What good will it do you to make a scene like this? Do you really not care about your reputation?" She began to argue. I stood up with a sneer. "Clara, if you still have any dignity, you should care about your husband's reputation. If you love him, you can tell me, and I will choose to divorce. Why didn't you say anything? Is it because you can't bear to? In fact, it's not that I can't bear to, but that you can't bear to lose the money I earn. You need my money to support them. You disappoint me. Clara, I've decided to grant your wish and we'll get a divorce." I said that and turned to leave. I can't accept betrayal. She thought she was clever, deceiving me because I loved her and trusted her, never suspecting her infidelity. But once doubt enters the heart, it grows quickly and is hard to eradicate. I will never forgive those who betray and deceive me. While waiting for the train at the high-speed railway station, Clara's son found me. He told me directly that he hoped I would divorce his mother and give her back to him and his father. I looked at him quietly, and scenes from the past flashed through my mind. If Clara and I had a child, he would be older than Noah. At this time, he would also be by my side, supporting me against those who make me sad. Noah impatiently said, "Can't you feel that my mother doesn't love you? She has been by your side for 40 years, isn't that enough? You should be satisfied that she has given us far less than you have for more than 30 years. You have been causing trouble for a long time, and we have been disturbed by your quarrels. As a man, you should reflect on yourself. How can you have the nerve to come here and cause trouble? I hope you can understand that you should go back and divorce my mother, so that she can spend the rest of her life with my father and the people who love each other can be together. And as a man, I hope you can shoulder your responsibilities and stop blaming women for your mistakes. There are some things you just have to bite the bullet and get through, don't you think? I understand that you are also a famous person, and you definitely don't want people to say that you are a cuckold, do you? That guy really is Clara's good son, he is so shameless, just like her." But they let them down. At the anniversary banquet, many guests filmed the farce and posted it online. Clara became an internet celebrity overnight. She had already become a minor celebrity for her dancing, and many people had helped her make videos showing how to teach dancing to retired seniors. She was known as the most beautiful grandma in Los Angeles. Now her fame had become a double-edged sword, and netizens began to comment on her. What is going on here? This is really shocking. This kind of content seems to be the business of the older generation. It seems that young people nowadays are playing with old things, which is really disgusting. I want to talk about the old gentleman. He is a leader in the construction industry. Mr. Gray has dedicated his life to the construction industry, but he was betrayed because of outside competition. Mr. Gray is a very refined person who cares about young people and often patiently teaches us the history of architectural design. Speaking of Noah, he is a city government employee. Shouldn't his personal background be checked during the recruitment process? This kid obviously had a child out of wedlock, but suddenly he became someone of unknown status. People outside the construction industry may not understand how hard it is to make a living in this industry, which involves using the hard work of the husband to support the family. Clara was completely unprepared for this. She didn't expect things to develop so seriously and get out of control. She screamed on the phone, "Ethan, you have to go online and clarify that we got divorced a long time ago and Liam and I are the real couple." I laughed. "Why should I clarify for you? Have you forgotten that I am the victim?" Clara lost all her usual calm and grace and said angrily, "How can I face people after you do this? What about Liam? What about the children and my job?" I secretly gloated to myself, "You've done so many bad things, and you haven't thought about what will happen if they come to light? There's only one outcome, you reap what you sow." "Clara, the show is just beginning." Liam grabbed the phone and said, "You clarify things online, and I'll make Clara sign the divorce papers." Divorce? Of course we are getting a divorce, but not yet. My student found a well-known divorce lawyer, who, after listening to my story, said that we can recover all the money Ms. Clara spent on Liam and his father, because that is marital property and you have the right to claim it. Of course we will recover it. After some investigation, I found out that Clara bought 2 houses for Liam, and also bought a marital home and 2 cars for their son. Altogether, it is worth more than $10 million. Add in all the expenses over the years, and it really is a lot of money. When Clara returned, she seemed to have aged 10 years in one go, looking like a real 60-something. When she entered the residential area, some neighbors were walking by and started pointing and laughing. Someone said that she really had no shame, cheating on her husband in her 60s. Oh no, it was cheating for more than 30 years. Ethan is such an honest person. In the past, he went out every morning and came back every night to earn money, but his wife was always dressed up and dancing and putting on makeup at home. I felt bad whenever I saw her. Everyone said she looked like a vixen. She lives in the same building as me, and I feel ashamed. The people around them didn't care at all. Clara could hear them, and the louder they spoke, the louder they got. Clara's face turned red. When she got home, she angrily said to me as soon as she entered the door, "Are you feeling particularly pleased now? Do you have to push me to the brink of desperation before you're satisfied? Noah's job is gone too, and I've been banned from teaching dance at the university for seniors. Are you happy now?" I replied, "None of this has anything to do with my life, so why tell me? You and Liam have been in love for years, so what's the big deal about losing your job? Lovers can face life's challenges together, and your family won't be afraid of anything. And my lawyer will soon tell you that I will recover all the expenses you spent on Liam and his son. I suggest you find a lawyer to prepare for yourself." Clara sat in front of me with tears in her eyes, looking at me pleadingly and saying, "Honey, I'm sorry, I really didn't mean to betray you." At that time, I was sick and really miserable. I tried to come back, but it was too late. What should I do? I can only live like this. After she finished, she squatted at my feet, looking up at me. "I really know that I was wrong, can you please forgive me?" In the past, if she begged me like this, I would definitely say yes. But now, I pushed her hand away and said, "Clara, don't do this anymore, I'm really fed up." Clara looked at me with some loss of emotional control and asked, "Why did it have to turn out like this? You're almost 70 years old now, and you want a divorce. Don't you think face is important? Some things, just let go, and everything will pass." With all my strength, I slapped her. This was the first time I had raised my hand against her in the 40 years of our marriage. Before, I had cared about her every little thought, but now, I really wanted to teach her a lesson. How could you go from one man to another? I feel so disgusted. How could you face me every day and lie without any guilt? When you gave my money to other people, did you think I was stupid? I worked after retirement to earn a little extra money to ensure that we would have a comfortable life in our old age. I didn't want you to suffer. And this is how you repay me? Using my money to support another man and his child, and celebrating your wedding anniversary with him. What am I supposed to think? Clara shook her head and said through her tears, "No, I didn't do that. I really didn't mean to hide it. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have celebrated our wedding anniversary with him, and I shouldn't have thrown a big banquet, so that this wouldn't have happened." I stood up, turned my back to her. "Clara, you can go. I don't want to see you again." I'll have my lawyer contact you about the divorce. I really don't want to spend any more time with you. You've made this whole experience ridiculous. My lawyer is very professional. He itemized the money Clara had spent and demanded that all of it be returned within a month. Otherwise, he would file a lawsuit, which would cause even more trouble. Clara had no choice but to start selling the house with Liam. But their son disagreed. He felt that the house was in my name, and there was no reason for you to sell it at will. How can your own mistakes involve me? I'm not signing, and no one is touching my house. This is my guarantee for getting married. Don't even think about the car, no way. Liam persuaded his son, your mother paid for the house and the car. Now that you're getting divorced, she wants her money back. After this period of time, your parents will buy it for you again. Noah scoffed, don't talk empty talk, where's the money to buy it for me? I'm not going to sell the house easily. I bear the stigma of being an illegitimate child, and all the bad things are said about me, without any benefit to myself. I tell you, if you push me any further, I will cut off all ties with you. Clara begged him, crying, do you want your mother to go to prison? Noah said indifferently, you can beg that old man, didn't you know how to please him before? You have all the money, how can he let you go to jail? If that doesn't work, just go back to him, I'll stay with my dad. Liam slapped him, you ungrateful brat, that's your own mother, how can you say that? Noah covered his face and said, what I said is the truth. I'm afraid to go out now. You did the ugly things, aren't you afraid of what people will say? You really have no face. Clara covered her chest, her face pale, and she almost fainted. She was furious at her son's behavior. Liam took advantage of his son's presence in the hospital to secretly take the property ownership certificate and dispose of the house. When Clara was discharged from the hospital, Noah found that the house had already been sold. Angry, he grabbed his father's arm and yelled, why are you doing this to me? The family argued furiously. On the day we signed the divorce papers, I looked at Clara. Although her hair had turned quite gray, she didn't seem to have the energy to take care of it. Life had obviously taken its toll on her. As I signed the papers, I looked at her and knew in my heart that if you had told me earlier that we were getting divorced, I might have been able to get some of the assets. But you chose to cheat on me and try to get my money without considering the consequences. Now because of your choice, you have not only lost my trust, but also had a child with someone else, and as a result, you will not get a penny and will have to leave the house empty-handed. In addition, there are debts that you have not paid off. Please transfer 4,000 yuan to my account every month, leaving you a little living expenses. This way you can remember the consequences of cheating every month. I plan to make her feel pain every day. Life is always difficult for poor couples, and their hard times are not over yet. I wanted to see if Clara's true love would bear this responsibility for the sake of love. After the divorce, my student often came to my house. She said that I should change my house and found me a new property, close to the Design Institute and in a good environment. In fact, I should have changed to a better and more comfortable house a long time ago, but Clara felt more comfortable living in the old house, so she never changed it. She gave all the money to Liam and his father. I now have enough savings to sell the old house and move into the new one. The student accompanied me on shopping trips and gave my wardrobe a complete makeover. He said he had long been unhappy with my old clothes and that I had been wearing worn-out cotton clothes despite having the means to buy new ones. Now, as the student said, I have become a fashionable, comfortable and handsome Ethan, and I feel much younger. The past seems so distant, and only the happy days are worth remembering. After the divorce, Liam surprisingly did not register the marriage with Clara. I know why he didn't want to get married, because marrying Clara would mean sharing the debts together. He could never make such an irrational decision. Clara borrowed money from everywhere and opened a dance studio, wanting to teach the elderly to dance. But her business spread far and wide in the city, and as soon as the elderly heard that their partner wanted to learn to dance with her, they immediately refused. Learning to dance with such a person, everyone had doubts in their hearts. What are you learning? Hurry home, return the money, and go learn somewhere else. Is she teaching dance or something else? Who knows, I'm not at ease, so I went home right away. Within 2 months, almost all the students who signed up had returned their tuition fees, and her dance studio was about to close down. Liam never got married to Clara, and as a result, their son brought home a girlfriend, who was unhappy when she met them and asked what was going on in their family, and who dared to marry someone with no name and no status. Noah was very angry, yelling at Clara to move out, complaining that she had never raised him, and now they're getting married but it's all going to fall apart because of her, so she should just move out. Clara is about to crack, shouting, "I'm your mother, you were born to me, I bought the house you live in and the car you drive, and you want to kick me out?" But her son just smiles and says, "Didn't you guys sell the house already? The car is gone, and now I'm renting my own house. You're not married to my father, and if you really are my mother, why didn't he marry you?" Clara was kicked out of the house and had to rent a small room to live in. She went to Liam's house several times to get a marriage license, but Liam would never agree. As her financial situation worsened, his love for her disappeared. At their son's wedding, father and son completely ignored Clara. Liam brought his new girlfriend, an elderly woman who had just retired, to sit in the main seat. He looked at the old woman with the same deep, tender gaze he used to give Clara. During the wedding, when the parents of both sides were giving their speeches, Clara rushed in and interrupted, "Wait, I'm Noah's mother." She yelled at Liam's girlfriend, "Do you think Liam likes you? He's after your pension. He's already got what he wants from me, now someone else is going to continue to take advantage of you." Liam stood up, his face dark with anger, and shouted, "What are you talking about? Get her out of here." Clara was now a celebrity, and when someone recognized her at the scene, people started talking and recognized her and Liam. The woman was embarrassed and left on the spot, and the wedding was cancelled, leaving a lot of trouble for Liam and his father. Clara and Liam and his father had a conflict on the spot, and chaos ensued. Later, it was learned that Noah's marriage was also affected. Due to family matters, he lost his job and could not find a job. With a low level of education, he could only find temporary work everywhere. I heard that Clara couldn't stand it in Jincheng anymore and returned to her hometown, a remote mountain village, where the internet doesn't work, no one knows her past, and no one knows her. In the end, she completely turned into a lonely old lady in the countryside, living on that desolate piece of land. I am still a consultant at the Design Institute, teaching different students every year about Chinese architectural history. My retirement has just begun, and it is full of wonderful moments.